And we are live. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, go ahead and get the door. Sorry about that. Let's start over. Take two. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for stopping in here at J Hood Creative. It's another bright, shining Saturday morning. Well, it's not actually bright, and the sun's not shining. It's kind of gloomy here. Yay, Indiana. If you don't like the weather, stick around. It'll change.
Just because it's cloudy doesn't mean the sun ain't shining.
That's right, Coach Vic. Coach Vic, have you ever walked into Meijer and saw an awesome Darth Vader shirt for like $4 and you're like, I'll take that home. And then you get home and you see at the bottom it says number one dad, and you realize you just bought yourself a Father's Day gift. I have. Oh man. Well, let's get started with a few shout outs. What have you seen happening around the YouTube comic book community this week, Victor?
Nothing much, really. I mean, it's just interesting just to hear what people are talking about. I'm kind of liking the videos where people talk about what's coming up in the next few weeks and why you shouldn't get that.
Okay.
And then they'll talk about what they just got, why they should or shouldn't have got that. I think it's interesting because I'm like, to me, I'm just like, if I find the storyline, I'm going to get it. And if I get a bad issue, I'm just going to assume the next one's going to be better. But it's kind of interesting how people kind of just like, yeah, I'm going to give it one more shot.
Every month after month, I'm going to give it one more shot.
Right.
That's the completest. That's the collector in us. We'll read a book and think, oh, it's going to be better next time. It's not better next time. You're like, it's going to be better next time. But man, I know what you mean. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of that this morning. We've got a busy show to get to. So a few things I've seen around the YouTube comic book community are things like we were just talking about the boy had 7, landed a big grail this week. First appearance of Punisher and a 9/8 white pages, just like he likes. Congratulations, bro. I want to shout out a few members that have reached milestones this week, and these are major players, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the other big thing.
Pillars in the community. John's Comics with Kids and Metarog, and Erod the other night. Also, I believe he was like 1 or 2 away, so I have to believe he hit 1,000. All 3 of these guys got 1,000 subs this week. Man, we all see that 1,000 sub level is not like the pinnacle, but it's like you got cred. You've done a lot of work. And let me put that first. It's not that we love these guys all that much. These guys put in a lot of work in their content. They offer a lot of great advice. They're entertaining. When Metarog comes on, you're just going to get unloaded on with comic book history. John's Comics with Kids he should be a comedian. He should take his show on the road.
Very entertaining.
Erod, the master presser. I'm trying to land on who I'm going to have press my books, and I think it's going to be Erod. And then one other guy I heard last night, 90 miles from comics. Little 90 arrived. Way to go, bro. Welcome to the club. Things, as I'm sure you've heard, things will never be the same again. But it's a great change. Embrace it. Savor every moment. The little guy's going to be this big for about a week, dude. Next week, he's going to be this big. So just enjoy every minute. And take a minute to shout out the chat. Great legend. The Comic Corps also hit 1,000 subs this week. And man, talk about pillars of the community. Those guys put so much content out, pretty much a show a night between the whole group of those guys. Legend, Chad, Seawood, Cat Run Figures. Who am I missing? The talkative guy with the beard.
Biggie?
No.
Yep. The other beard?
Legend was telling me. This is how I do. I blank on names right in front of people. I take people on tours at work and introduce them to my coworkers. And I'm like, this is, and I've been working with the guy for like years. I can't remember his name.
I'm not getting any help in the chat.
But we've got NASCAR NB Bronco fans and Bronco fans. NASCAR and Bronco fans. I get it. I know somebody that's a NASCAR and Bronco fan. I don't think you're the guy family, but if you are, hey, bro.
I happen to be a NASCAR and a Bronco fan.
Yeah, but you're a Rams fan of both.
Well, the Broncos have Drew Lock as a quarterback. It all comes back to Mizzou for me, too.
Gotcha. We got, like I said, the great legend, Drew Manchu. Drew Manchu is the other dude on the Common Core, the main crew there. But, the Common Core is a conglomerate, it's a brand. And pretty much anybody in the community that wants to get involved, that wants to do, get involved and do a Common Core show, just get a hold of those guys. They'll fit you in. They fit me in a couple times.
Nice.
Comics for All People's here. Good to see you. I think that's who we've got live right now. I'll mention a few of my own appearances in the last couple weeks. Last time we did the show in the afternoon, I was on Discovery Bay's pop-up shop all afternoon. I've still got plenty of the books that I showed available. I put a link to that show in the description of this video. So if you go and watch that, look in the comments of that video, and you'll see that I've left timestamps for all of my all my lots that I showed. And if you go and watch through my lots, and if you see something that didn't sell, get a hold of me. It's still available. I think I'm going to maybe do a little experiment where I kind of take the same tack that Disco does with his show, except I'm going to do it on Instagram, where I'm going to do just, here's a $5 lot of books, $5 plus shipping. If you want it, get a hold of me. I think I might start that. I'm not sure if I'm going to start a new Instagram handle or just do it under J Hood Creative. And then I was also on 36 Chambers Tattoo Studio on Monday night. It was the first time he did a show where he's going to do it regularly, probably, I think he's thinking monthly right now, where he's just talking to creators or artists in the YouTube comic book community. And it was a fun time talking to him. One of the things I talked to him about and kind of popped up in the chat, and actually saw him then later on Hialeah's show on Wednesday, and they were talking about the fact that they didn't realize people still made models or, made kits. And they were surprised that I was able to make a living at it, and it's definitely fun work. And I'm going to show a little bit more of that this morning. What you got, Vic?
Well, I was still surprised when when your company did that show, and there's over 300 people in the chat, and I'm just like, I was floored.
That's another appearance I had in the last couple of weeks. It's fun to come on and talk about your area of interest. But it's another thing to get on when you kind of talk about your area of expertise and you got a lot of people coming to hear what you have to say. I'm thrilled to have any people come and watch me live, and definitely appreciate anybody watch my rewinds, of course, too. But I'm still kind of little, and I'm doing it on a Saturday morning, so people aren't necessarily awake. So I get 5 or 10 maybe in the chat by the time we're done, maybe a few more than that. Last Friday on my channel at work, which is Round 2 for You, I did a video where I showed some of our new products, and some of them hadn't even been announced yet. So it was the first time announcing some new products. And we had nearly 300 people in the live chat.
Oh, there was 320 at one point.
320 at one point. Okay. I heard like 289. So, and I haven't had a chance to go back and try and absorb all that knowledge, but thanks to everyone that came out for that. It was definitely a good time, and I plan to do that again, like I said in that video.
Okay.
So I've got a few unboxings to do, and one of them is kind of related to that video and my job. So, I've got kind of a longer spiel I want to do later on, so let's keep things moving. As much as I like my job, I have all my packages sent there. The owner of the company, any piece of mail that comes in the door, if he gets to it first, he will open it regardless of whose name is on it. So my stuff has been opened, cracked open at least. And but I've done my best not to go digging to see what the actual contents are. So here's the first thing this is an eBay purchase. And this, I believe, this is a This is one of the items that was on my 2020 hunt list. Just want to check it out real close, up close. This is definitely a nice copy for what I paid for it. It's not perfectly mint, but it's nice enough for me. 2001, number 8, which is the first appearance of Machine Man.
Yeah.
That's a beauty. Corners are nice. A few spine ticks, but other than that, it's a pretty nice copy.
Machine Man supposed to be appearing somewhere here.
The spec on Machine Man is that with Marvel kind of laying the groundwork where they're saying they're going to do some horror stuff, everybody's thinking, well, Marvel's kind of biggest modern horror story that they've done has been Marvel Zombies, and Machine Man played a pretty major role in that storyline.
Okay.
Seeing as how he's a robot and not a human, that zombies can eat his brain. So,
is Lock and Key, is that Marvel? So
no, that I want to say that was IDW.
Okay.
Okay, so this next book I've got is an upgrade book for me, and I'm pretty sure I've shown my other copies of this in other videos, and for some reason I can't stop talking about it. And oddly enough, it's not a superhero book. It's not like a real indie either, but it's a Dell. I don't usually collect Dell comics. I'll leave that piece of tape on there, that one too. But upgrade to my copy of Frogmen.
12 cents.
12 center. It was advertised as an 8.0. And I didn't believe that was the case, but the price was still right, and it's better than any copies that I've owned this far. So far, I've gone through 2. But it'll take a long time to improve upon the condition of this book. Hey, Comic Books NYC, how you doing? So for those that aren't familiar with Frogmen, it's kind of a Johnny Quest type story. A couple of guys are frogmen, and they go kind of do underwater mysteries. And this issue is number 5, and it happened to be drawn by Alex Toth, the same guy that drew this. I've had this sitting in the background, but I don't know if I've ever shown it up close and personal. So Alex Toth was a bit of a curmudgeon to work with, and he had some social anxiety problems towards the end of his life where, as I understand it, he would just kind of sit and doodle on letter pads. And a while back, somebody was just selling pages and pages from his letter pads. So this next lot of books is, wow, I didn't even realize that one was included. Okay. So a while back, I bought that big hardcover album of an Elephant Men story. And so I went back, and this is the director's cut, so it's not the first issue. I realized I didn't have the first 7 or 8 issues of this book. So I found this lot for a very affordable price on eBay.
What was the first
2.
book then?
So there are 7 books in a lot, and it lands on number 7, but they call this one an issue 0, so I'm still missing something. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Okay, so I'm missing issue 5. So this is issue 0. Issue 1. The cover art on these is done by Jose Ladrone, who I believe is a Spanish artist. And if you're familiar with the artist Mobius, this is actually a Brian Boland cover here. If you're familiar with the artist named Mobius, he's very, very much inspired by Mobius, who was a French artist. It's issue 4, issue 5, I believe. No, this is the 6.
6.
Yeah, so I still need to find the 5. Actually, I have a double of this one. And this is issue 7, which I didn't realize was in the lot, and I thought this was the one I was missing. This is the one where Chris Bachalo came in and did a guest story in it.
That looks like the cover of the Zero one.
It had the same character. So this has like a a pre-story by Ladrone. Is it Ladrone at this point? I'm sorry, it was Moritat that did the interiors. Ladrone did the covers. But then Chris Bachalo comes in and does this kind of fantasy story. And I've got a reprint in a hardcover album of that story as well in a larger format. So I actually put a bid in on a copy of this with a Bachalo cover. So if I lose, I lose. I'm not going to miss it. If I win, I'll have the Bachalo cover. And it's not a cover collector, but that one's not going to be a bad one to have. So this next unboxing is, thanks NYC. They are cool covers. It's definitely an overlooked title, Elephant Men, especially early on. So this next unboxing is not necessarily comic books, and this comes from a gentleman that runs a Facebook group that kind of supports our product at round 2. So his name is Gene Davis, and he runs several Facebook groups, and he wanted me to shout this one out in particular. So 1/350 scale Cleon Katinga only tips and tricks. So what that means is this group is specifically about tips and tricks for building our 1/350 scale Cleon Katinga. For those of you that aren't familiar with Star Trek, so if you've happen to have seen anyway, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the movie starts with these Klingon battle cruisers that get attacked by V'ger. And in one kind of iconic scene, you get a real close flyby where like the ship comes by the camera like this, and you kind of see just the top of the conning tower. And in real life, that miniature was 4 feet long, and we offer a model kit that is half of that, which is 2 feet long. It was excruciatingly researched to be accurate to the filming miniature so that we could satisfy a crowd of modelers that wants to be able to get that on-screen amount of detail kind of as close as they can get in something that they can sit on a shelf. You can't sit a 4-foot model on a shelf, but 2 feet. Some people have got room, some people don't, but there's a big market for that right now. So Gene has sent me a gift, but he also sent me a few things that he wanted to get autographed. So
that seems like that had to be really hard.
Which part?
To get it down to 2 feet and keep all the detail, or is that just what you do?
Well, you start with researching the large one if you can get access to it. Mm-hmm. There are some people out there. One of the models that I announced on Friday was the Galileo shuttle. In the case of that, the Galileo shuttle, you actually see Kirk and Spock and Bones get in and out of in one of the episodes.
Yeah.
They actually have they call it a mock-up, I guess. I would call it like a set or something like that. So this 20, 30-foot spaceship that they built for the show ended up in a field somewhere. Over time, it changed hands a few times and was rotting in a field. So somebody that appreciated it went and bought it, rescued it, brought it in and restored it. So in that case, people had hands-on experience with the real thing, so they can take measurements and things like that. The odd thing about that particular case is that mock-up is only 2/3 scale.
Okay.
So in real life, it should be 33% longer than what it is. If you watch the episode, you'll see grown men standing up straight with plenty of headroom above them, and when they're inside the thing, and when they come out, they have to duck down to get out through the door. And you realize that once they get out, they could not have stood up straight in this thing. So it's a bit of, if you're familiar with Doctor Who, it's a TARDIS. It's a TARDIS effect where the inside is bigger than the outside. So That's how we develop these kits, where we have people that have either had access to these models or why am I out of focus? There, that's better. Sorry about that, guys. So we have people that have, if they haven't actually laid hands on the real thing, they have the kind of computer CAD skill to build a wireframe based on a screen grab or a photograph or combination. They can take their CG model and kind of match the angles they see on screen and tweak it, and it takes years of work to do some of this stuff. That's how we develop the Katinga kit. So let's see what we have. So this issue got a bit dinged up. Okay, so I was talking about the Katinga model kit. So it recently, this is this month's issue of Fine Scale Modeler, and there it is right on the cover. That's our model kit. Inside you would find a multi-page article on how to build it, how to paint it, how to get it right. We offer a light kit that goes inside it. So all that kind of stuff, that's my job to figure out how to.
Is that your painting on the cover?
No, that's a photograph of the model. So part of my job is to figure out like what the build order is, how to part it out. Man, my camera's really acting up. When it comes to lighting, it's like where do the lights need to land, that kind of thing. This is the actual light kit, and he's had our consultant Charles Adams sign this, so he wants me to autograph that and send it back for him. But here is what he sent me. There's batteries. Robbie the robot. Man, this thing is massive. It's got to be probably 18 inches tall. We've done a model kit of this before, so I'm somewhat familiar with it. I didn't develop that kit, but I studied it to see if I can find areas of improvement. But this looks pretty cool. So thanks, Gene. Okay, so I need to sign this and send it back. And Gene, I wasn't sure. Get a hold of me. I didn't know if you wanted to be, if this was the copy you wanted to be to sign and send back to you as well. I wasn't sure about that, or if that's mine to keep. So just let me know.
Just 1 second.
Get a closer look at that. NASCAR fan says press the yellow button.
Welcome to Al Care 4, gentlemen. I am to transport you to the residence.
Wow. That's really cool.
I'm just curious for future. Is this for playing with or just to look at?
He's posable. He's an action figure. He's articulated. I mean, as articulated as Robbie gets. That's really cool, though. Thanks again, Gene.
I said push it again.
Walmart has them, okay? For your convenience, I am monitored to respond to the name Robbie.
The sound sounds really good in that, too. I've developed certain products that had sound chips in them, and they can sound like crap. That one sounds pretty good. All right, let's see. Let's move on. What's next on the agenda? Unpopular opinion. I'm going to drop my unpopular opinion right here. I was watching Comic Core last night, and I know Drew Manchu is a huge fan of what Jonathan Hickman has been doing with the X-Men. But if you are a huge raging fan of these issues, these stories, I disagree. Okay, so the X-Men, all the mutants, every superpowered mutant is living on an island now called Krakoa, which is also a mutant.
Mm-hmm.
And on this island, they have come up with like magical plants that will do anything. That's the story. Well, another another island comes along, and the two islands are floating closer to each other until they run into each other. Is that this issue? I believe that's what's happening. But Cyclops and Sebastian Shaw and the White Queen, Emma Frost, I don't know if they call her White Queen anymore. She'll always be the White Queen to me. Go to investigate this other island. And is that what's happening here? Or is this other crew invading Krakoa? In any case, this issue is 3 X-Men fight a bunch of superpowered old ladies. And they're not even, I won't even say they're superpowered. They're like Iron Man type of superpowered, where they're like, they've got mech suits, that make them stronger.
But is this with Wolverine's offspring or whatever? What is she, a Wolverine?
You're talking about X-23.
Yeah.
She's a clone.
Oh.
But here's the crew of the old ladies. You know what I want in my X-Men comics? It's not X-Men fighting old ladies.
How dare you underestimate the old people?
Old ladies got their place. Okay.
Oh.
Old ladies, any old lady can go do whatever any old lady wants to do. But when I'm looking for a comic book to buy, I don't want to see X-Men fighting old ladies. Now, this next one, issue 4, that was issue 3. Issue 4. John's Comics with Kids. He's here. He raved about this book. I disagree, John. Okay, so in this book, this is where you got Professor X, Magneto, and Apocalypse have a sit down with the other major leaders from the free world, and Magneto kind of tells them what's what, and it takes all issue to do that. And there's a little bit of action in it where Cyclops and some other dude in shades that I don't even know. I'm an X-Men fan. I don't know what this guy's name is. Who's that guy? They're kind of fending off some attackers that are supposed to come and take out the Holy Trinity there. Why do we need a whole issue of that? A whole issue of a sit down? I want to see these guys fighting other superpowers, villains. There's an untenable utopia here, where it's the bad guys and good guys are living together.
Well,
there ain't nobody to fight except old ladies.
Well, I'm just saying, based on what I've read, X-Men, the next issue that came out last week, I guess it was.
I'll pick that up the LCS today, hopefully.
It's supposed to be the one that really sets everything on its next path.
Okay. And is that the path that Drew Manchu was talking about last night of 43 issues next month?
I don't know. I just read half the article.
I've been reading X-Men. I read New Mutants, and I like the stuff in space. Those 2 issues of the other stuff happening on Earth, I couldn't even get through them. Marauders, I've heard is good. I read the first issue, missed the second, so now I'm gonna have to go back and chase those down. Read the first couple issues of Excalibur. They're generally okay. I like what they're doing with Betty Braddock in that. But it's just okay X-Men. and everybody's raving about it, and I expect better. And I don't know if I'm going to get it. Let's see what John's got to say. I'll put it highlighted his comment there. Didn't like issue 3 in X-Men as a book. Has been very uneven. Issue 4 was great for me. Godfather, like, I agree. Yeah. So everybody is kind of raving about Hickman, and a lot of people poo-poo Bendis and what a lot of the work that he's done. Now, Bendis is very entertaining for me. I am not going to sit here and defend him at every turn. I loved his Daredevil stuff. His X-Men stuff was okay. I think if they'd have teamed him up with he was teamed up with great artists at certain points, and when the art went down, kind of the stories went down, in my opinion. But he's writing this book now for DC, Legion of Superheroes, and I want to send a shout out to Metarog about this book. I'd encourage you to try it out. The characters look very different than the Legion of Superheroes that we're used to. But the feel of the Legion, I think, has returned to what we saw in the Silver and Bronze Age, where it is just a big club. It's a big club of superheroes, like almost an endless
roster.
Amount. Yeah, they have a whole kind of city that is their base. And one of the complaints about Bendis is, and this is what Hickman's doing now, is kind of decompressed storytelling, where he'll take a whole issue, it'll take you like 10 minutes to read it, and not a lot's going to happen. I'm not going to say a lot's happening in each issue of this, but these aren't one potty reads. This will take you a minute. Each issue takes 20 to 30 minutes. Bendis has been guilty of, he'll have action scenes and he'll have a page of just characters' heads talking, like somewhat like a reality show, where like taking a time out from the action. Let's see what Wolverine thinks. And it's a page of Wolverine talking about what he thinks.
Like their confessionals?
Yeah, exactly what he's doing. In this, everybody's talking at the same time, and everybody has their own kind of voice. So anybody that's a Legion of Superheroes fan that has been turned off in the recent past, like I have, Ryan Sook art definitely helps. And this is the best work I've seen Ryan Sook do in quite a while too. But I'd definitely give that a shot.
Have you read H for Hero?
No.
I think that's what it's called. It just looks intriguing to me. I don't know why. Maybe I've never. I don't think I've ever read a title. It's old. It's from the Silver Age. Oh, it is?
But I know they relaunched it recently. Bendis is underrated. Powers, Daredevil, New Avengers. I know he's had bad runs, but I like his stuff from the old days. I agree, John. That's pretty much where I'm at. When he made the jump over to DC, I wasn't super enthusiastic about it. I was probably a little bit burned out on him from his Marvel stuff, and I didn't see how he would his stuff would translate to DC. But this is actually the first thing I read from him, DC.
Here's a question: with all these guys switching companies and storylines and stuff, do they ever just use the same storyline with a different superhero, or do they just keep coming up with ideas?
There are certain tropes that just keep turning up with certain characters, where they might retell a story someone else has told. Okay. But I can't think of a time when.
So you wouldn't like read something like, "Hey, this happened to Daredevil 3 years ago."
I can't recall that happening. I'm not going to say it hasn't ever, but I can't think of a time that it has. Hi, Robert Galvin. Good to see you. Hero and the Kid, good to have you. John says, I think his issues at DC are connected to bad editors and upper management DC. Seems like they don't have anyone manage his store over there. I got something to say about that a little later, too.
Ridiculous.
Sure. So here's what I'm going to show for my overlooked books, or you can call them underrated, you call it what you want. These are books I don't see anyone talking about. That I would encourage you to go hunt down. This is a 12-issue series called Next Wave. and the art was by Stuart Eminem, and the writing was by Warren Ellis. And this was Stuart Eminem before he teamed up with Bendis on X-Men. And his art style in this, I'm not going to unpack. This is most of the run here. I'm not going to unpack the books, but his art is more cartoony than what we're used to. He went through a phase where at the beginning he was a bit of a Adam Hughes clone. He became more kind of realistic and stayed that way for a while. Then he went kind of off this further deep end where he went real simple, and then came back to do kind of a really nice mix, in my opinion, between cartooning and realism when he came on the X-Men. So Next Wave, Agents of Hate, 12-issue series. The thing is, so this is the Next Wave team. So you've got Monica Rambeau, you've got Elisa Bloodstone, you've got the captain, and he's the captain because he goes by Captain Expletive Deleted, and it's written so that you can fill in whichever expletive you want. Boom Boom from New Mutants and Machine Man. So you're like, I want a team of those characters. So it's a comedy. It's comedy action. It's totally what it is. They are on the run from a SHIELD-like organization. The lead Nick Fury type dude is wacko, and it's basically just the stories break down to 2-issue story arcs. So every 2 issues is a story. Issue 1 and 2, 3 and 4, yada yada yada. So in issues 2 and 3, they take on Fiend Fang Foom, which is cool.
Fiend Fang Foom.
When they get into the towards the end of the run, they do run into established characters like Captain America, and the hilarity ensues. Like I said, I'd never seen anybody talk about this. I don't know what they would go for, what the set goes for on eBay. I can't imagine it's going to be very much. You might find it for $20 shipped or something like that. I don't know. If you want something that is just kind of pure fun, comedy, action, characters you have somewhat heard of and are intrigued by, it's definitely J Hood approved.
Anybody new in the chat?
We got Comic Cat 84. Good to see you, Kenny. G Spots got the chat hopping. Having something a little surprise a little later in my Nerdy Collected show, hopefully. See that later on from the G Spot today. Okay. So getting involved in this community, one of the things that attracted me to it, that I love, that I embrace, is that it is incredibly positive, almost to the point of we don't want to offend anyone, we don't want to scare anyone, and I've had something kind of on my mind that I wanted to talk about that I thought it's important, but I don't want to be controversial. That's not me. I'm a people pleaser. I don't want to deliver bad news. But I've been seeing things happen in the hobby that I saw happen in the 90s when there was a big comic book crash. Now, a lot of people will poo-poo the idea of we're not looking at a crash. A crash is not coming. We're not on the top of a bubble here. And you might be right. You might truly be right. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong. Now, I say this and say, okay, so I've seen, as in the books that I hunt for, and specifically the books that I hunt for, in a lot of cases, the prices are coming down. Now, this is backed up by someone else has done more research than I have, and that's ETA Nick. If you don't follow ETA Nick, I would encourage you to. He has an incredible collection, incredible knowledge about comic book collecting and investing. And he does a monthly show where he examines the comic book market. But when he says he's examining the comic book market, hey, Big Lion Cat. Hey, Bub. I can't remember if I saw Bub before. He keeps an eye on the high end stuff. Now, me, I'm the $40 guy. I'll stretch to a couple $100 every couple of years, but I do want to get a giant size X-Men one. So I don't want to say I'm going to shell out a bunch of money on a book that's going to lose value. So I'm not saying we're heading, we're diving off a cliff here. Like I said, I hope we're not. And in my preparation for this spiel, I've kind of convinced myself that I was wrong. And I hope I am. But I've always looked at it from the standpoint of, okay, we're seeing in the last 10 years, we've seen Marvel especially put out so many movies where it's really raised the awareness in the general public about superheroes. But when we see that performance at the box office, we don't see any similarity of that in the comic book market. We see people buying tons of T-shirts. I wore Star Wars, my number one dad Star Wars T-shirt I bought today, or I bought for myself. But we see people wearing T-shirts, wearing the hats, buying the toys, the action figures. You go to the store and you can buy anything you want with a Marvel branding on it. So we see that happening, and like I said, we're not seeing a lot of people come into the hobby. We're seeing some, and we're seeing people return to the hobby that is spurned by the movies. And what I've part of me taking a look at this is because of the same. I've had to look at the same thing in my day job, where model kit building. Hialeah and 36 Chambers the other day on the Hialeah show mentioned they didn't know that people still did models, or that models were still a thing. And a lot of people don't realize that, but there's a diehard group of people that do, and they will shell out cash to spend money on their hobby, just like we do with comics. And in that market, when we do survey work and do market research, we see a statistical drop-off at about, it moves every year, at about age 40. At 40 and below, no one statistically is building a model. So ever since I've gotten into the model building industry, the question's always been, what can we do to get young people in? Well, the problem there is it's no longer a one generation problem. It's not dads need to go and buy models for their sons to put together, because at this point, the dads have not built models. So it's grandpa has to go buy the model kit and teach grandson. But as I've looked into this to really evaluate my position on it, you don't see that in the comic book collecting. You don't see a big generational gap anywhere, a big drop off. You don't necessarily see kids or the younger folks, as many as us middle-aged guys, going and collecting comics. I don't have the statistics. I didn't take the step to try and find out what the demographics are of comic book buyers. But from visually, what I see, it's kind of middle-agers that are buying the more high-end stuff. And we're also going to see kind of a shift in how people collect. I'm part of Generation X, and in Generation X, we're more the word's escaping me, nostalgic. We're more nostalgic about things, where we value going back and looking at things we enjoyed when we were younger. And and younger people, even millennials, would come right after Generation X. are not so much like that. And you have to, if you think about it, you'll figure out why, and why that is because Generation X, when I was a kid, I was a Star Wars fan. Star Wars would come in the summertime. We'd go watch it. We'd come home. What would we do? We want to relive Star Wars, what we saw at the theater. So what are we going to do? We're going to make our own guns. So I've got Han Solo's blaster made out of, sticks and stones and stuff. We've got 3-inch action figures that we can buy for $4 or $5 each. So we can buy 15 of them, have the whole crew, and it's not costing us an arm and a leg. And we can sit there and we can make our own adventures of, reliving the excitement we saw on the movie screen. What were we not able to do? We were not able to go turn it on our TV.
Right.
So the generation that comes after Generation X, they don't have to put in the imaginative brain power into going back to relive the things that they saw so fondly, so they can relive it over and over without having to stretch themselves, if you will. So this is what was concerning me, that I was seeing so much movie consumption, and people can go and watch movies. And if you go and look on toy shelves and look for superhero toys, you'll find either high-end stuff, fully articulated with lots of accessories for $20, $25 that guys like us can afford and will buy all of, or you see like a $10 figure that's just like super stiff, unarticulated Iron Man, and they do it in all these different paint ops that aren't even authentic to what you see in the movie. So the toys that I see that are affordable for kids are a little bit more disposable. I see them as more disposable. They probably truly aren't, but just when you think of the Star Wars toys we played with, those 3.5-inch figures, there wasn't much to them, but they were authentic to the show. That we wouldn't see Luke Skywalker painted in blues and pinks or silvers or whatever, and you'll see odd color. You can find a red Batman out there, red and black and yellow and black and things like that. And it's like, when was Batman ever that color? So these are the things that kind of run through my mind. I did a lot of research, and I'll show you the one piece of research that really kind of turned me around on this. Before I go on, let's check and see what the comments are. Robert Galvin mentioned, I miss the Universal Monsters kits. So I was thinking about the whole superhero movie thing, and I'm like, okay, as it is right now, we're not going to see, when we see the next big Marvel movie event, we're not going to see Captain America and Iron Man be a part of that. You're going to see Reed Richards and Cyclops and Wolverine and maybe someone from Guardians of the Galaxy, and you'll see a new mix of characters. So I'm wondering, what if the superheroes that we see on screen today, 20 years down the line, they're like the Universal Monsters, where it's like people will look back with great fondness and see Chris Evans was my Captain America. Just like,
okay.
That cat. Boris Karloff. Is it Boris?
Yeah, Boris Karloff.
What's the other guy? Who's Dracula? Bela Lugosi. Okay.
Bela Lugosi, yeah. Boris
Karloff is Frankenstein. There will never be another interpretation of Frankenstein that visually tops this, in my opinion, because this is what I grew up with.
Gene Wilder.
Okay, Young Frankenstein is the best Frankenstein movie. This is the best visual depiction of the monster.
True.
Let's see. I agree with what you're saying, Jay Hood, but I think it'll be less of a crash and eventually more of a fade away over time as new readers become fewer and the generation passes on. That's true. I don't think it's really going to be a big bubble popping. It'll be a slow fade.
I think that's interesting what you're talking about, like the older people having the more disposable income.
That's part of it.
Because I remember like maybe 15, 20 years ago, so I hate to say this out loud, but me and some friends, we got invested in Pokemon cards because we were just getting it for his niece and nephew, and we kind of got hooked. We had the income to go get the really good cards.
Right. So when you look at nostalgia and collectibles and what becomes popular and what kind of pops up out of nowhere, like a couple years ago, you had Pokemon Live became a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was raving about it. Why?
Oh, yeah.
How long was it between when Pokemon, the TV show, and the cards was a big hit, and Pokemon Live came out?
Go? You mean the app?
Yeah, Pokemon Go.
Oh man, I don't know.
Would you say it's about 20 years?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So
there's a it's not a rule, it's kind of a guideline of collecting where 20 to 25 years after something hits big, it's going to hit again. Because 20 to 25 years later, people have the disposable income to put into things that they're interested in when they're younger.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's why I'm saying, I in 84's sale last weekend, I sold some Harley Quinn stuff, some books, and I'm like, Harley Quinn is 25 years old. Is that right? Or more? She came out in 90. This is 20. She's 30 years old. Dude, Harley Quinn, 30 years old. To me, she is a new character. She's like a new trendy character. Deadpool, 30 years old. To me, he's a new trendy character. Venom, he's on the borderline because I bought him off the shelf when I was in high school. But so this is also me realizing I'm an old man and coming to grips with that. Robert Galvin mentioned he's 54 years old. I'll be 50 this year. See, Hero and the Bear. My son and I saw the National Theater Live where Johnny Lee Miller and Benedict Cumberbatch played Frankenstein. 2 shows one night. Would only play the monster. One night, one would play the other, and the other would play the doctor. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, let me show the one.
That's interesting, though. That 20 to 25 years thing.
Let me show you the piece of information I found that changed it for me. That kind of changed my opinion on this. This is every Marvel movie and the money that has been made from each. So,
which one made the most money? Oh man, which solo movie made the most money?
Which solo movie? Black Panther. I'm sure that's the answer you're looking for.
Oh, I had no idea. What took him so long?
Okay. Here might be the more surprising thing. It looks like the next highest grossing single movie was
Captain Marvel.
Iron Man 3.
Really?
Yes. Which, if you ask everybody to rank their opinions on Marvel movies, Iron Man 3 will consistently be on the bottom end somewhere. People don't like Thor: The Dark World either, and I don't hate it. But so here's what I thought, and it's not the amounts of money that they're making, but and TiVo on Lords of the Long Box has talked about this a little bit, that Marvel is trying to go for a more international audience. And we look at comics because it's a great American art form. We're into superheroes. We concentrate on kind of this segment of it. Marvel and Disney want to take their property worldwide. They want to make as much money as possible. And if you look at the numbers, the American domestic box office is only accounting for 1/3 of all sales of Marvel movie tickets. So that's why you're seeing Shang-Chi become a Marvel movie. And they're doing more kind of international cast. Eternals has a very varied, diverse
international cast.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's like with a lot of movies, like especially the action movies. Like, seems like they almost care more about getting that international money They can flop over here, but as long as they do well overseas, they're
And
good.
and the thing is, I know Chinese people, and I've talked to them about what movies they like, and the movies they like are not the movies that Americans tout. They basically we see there are certain movies we see and we'll watch them and they're like, okay, they put a bunch of money into special effects, but the story is very formulaic. It was very predictable, kind of a trite kind of movie, and Chinese people are like, oh, that's the greatest thing ever.
Oh.
And it's just a thing where their taste or their palette for movies is not as refined or experienced as Americans, I think, where they don't realize it's as bad as we think it is just because they don't know any better. They haven't been exposed to
Well, that's
big
what I was going to say.
like
I don't know if this is getting in touchy territory, but like you said, with us, we watch where we want to, whenever we want to. Would that be part of it too? They still have more of an imagination,
maybe,
than what we would have.
Mm-hmm. Superhero movies. What bothers me is the restart of Spider-Man. How many times do we need to start a Spider-Man?
With the exact same storyline too.
So how many Frankensteins do you need? They made the best one, so should they not try again? Well, there's name recognition in Frankenstein, so that's why they do more.
I mean, Harry Potter / Moon Knight even started Frankenstein, even was in Frankenstein.
Yeah.
One of them anyway.
So to kind of make all my points, I made like 2.5 sheets of notes, and I'm not gonna go over all of them. We're almost out of time. And like I said, I've kind of convinced myself the other way. But this is what I wrote up as the signs of the comicopolis. Okay? So if you see this happening, it's bad news. Black Widow comes out, I believe, in May. If it does not do well, I don't want to say this kind of as an understatement. If Black Widow does not do well, it is not a good sign. And I think it was a misstep for Marvel to put out Black Widow now and not have put it out in the Captain Marvel time slot or schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because this is now kind of the second girl movie in a year. And I think the Black Widow character deserved more stature in the Marvel pantheon because we had known her longer.
Right.
So if Black Widow doesn't do well and Eternals doesn't do well, is really bad news. Okay, so Eternals. What do we know about Eternals? We've seen some costume designs. We've seen a lot of gender swapping in the characters. We've seen some concept art of Sentinels that don't look like Sentinels. The writers and director are all essentially virtually unknown with no, not just big budget movie experience, but any kind of sizable production movie experience. They're documentary. They come from the documentary field. Eternals was created by Jack Kirby. You know me, I'm like the biggest Kirby fanboy out there. Not true. But Eternals was not Kirby's best or most iconic work. It does leave the most room for interpretation, which is, it has the benefit, hopefully, of what we had with Guardians of the Galaxy, where there were no kind of preconceived notions of what was going to happen. But Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of written for fun and laughs, and does Eternals seem like it's geared toward that? I don't know. Then Doctor Strange 2, the sequel, I think will kind of, if those two movies don't do well this year, Doctor Strange 2 will kind of tell the tale, because it's supposedly the way they've worded the title and what we hear. I think that's the one that's really going to kind of spur what the next series of movies is going to be about.
Are any of those characters, is there any humor in any of those characters at all? Like, and you know, with Iron Man, you got humor.
And they kind of built that into the movie. That we didn't find that in Iron Man in the comics before that.
Oh, okay.
Doctor Strange had some humor in it, and you wouldn't think of him as a comedy either. So they're capable of making it happen. So the consistent thing about the Marvel movies is Kevin Feige. He's kind of there, and he is what DC movies doesn't have, which is one guy overseeing it. And I have a fear. I don't want that dude walking across any busy streets. I don't want him to go jump out of any airplanes. Don't ride any motorcycles. Basically, stay alive, Kevin Feige.
Treat him like the president.
Yep. And then, so who's the CEO at Disney right now? I had this right
Bob
now. Iger. He's about to retire.
Who he is?
Yeah. I mean, he's 67. Another 3 years, maybe at most. And he's talked about retiring, I think.
Oh, man.
But the thing is, okay, who replaces a guy like that?
And they're going to want to make their mark somehow.
Right. So I don't know if Kevin Feige has he definitely has a business sense, because you can't get the success they've had without just purely relying on your faith and vision of the subject matter. He has to have some amount of business acumen. I'm not sure if he might be a guy they would consider to move up. Maybe not at this stage, but later on. My point is, eventually Kevin Feige's not going to be around to steer the ship for these Marvel movies, and that's what's made him consistent so far. Maybe there's a new boss that comes in and wants to shake things up. He's like, we don't need that Kevin Feige guy. We can do this on our own, like DC's trying to do, and then everything kind of falls off a cliff. Okay, and then this is the other thing as far as Marvel movies go. I think it's a bad sign if we see Marvel do a movie in a genre that is not superheroes. Now, think about this. Marvel has done an unprecedented thing, Marvel Studios, whereas think of every other studio in the business, they've done movies in multiple genres, and the consistent thing about Marvel movies, everyone is a superhero movie. So, and they've been able to spin like what happens within the context of a superhero movie to give kind of different genres within the genre. But I mean, think of Disney as a whole. They do a bunch of historically, I mean, they're concentrating on princesses and things like that now. But historically, they've done, movies across different genres, different types, animated, non-animated. You can go on. Okay, so moving away from the movies, bad sign, a $6 cover price on a floppy comic. To me, a $5.99 cover price is a bad sign. And it's Big Will this week, another shout out. Big Will did a great study on the cover price of comics this week on one of his videos. And he kind of brought up the point that if you look at inflation, what we're paying for comic books is fair. Okay, there's that kind of thinking. Then that's the head thinking. The heart thinking is $6. $6 for 22 pages, and if it's not this particular book that takes 20 minutes to read, it's a 10-minute read, and I buy 10 of them a month, $60. Dude, you know what I can buy for $60 in a month? Man, I wish I had $60.
Take my wife to sushi on Monday night.
I'm talking about disposable income, not food.
Yeah, it was disposable.
Let's see what else did I have here. Pops. I have managed to stay away from Pops. To be honest, I'm not as intrigued by the cutesified version of heroes as everyone else is.
Oh, you mean the thing I was trying to give you?
Yeah. So I don't want Pops to become Beanie Babies.
Ooh.
Now here's.
I remember those.
Yeah. So there might be as many Pops out there as there are Beanie Babies now. But the difference is, back when they were doing Beanie Babies, they would do more of each one as they got more popular. And I'm not sure that there's that kind of uncontrolled volume being manufactured by Funko. I think they are keeping an eye on things too. They're doing a wide variety. They're doing a shotgun approach as far as all the different properties they're doing. But as far as a single pop, edition, I think they're trying to keep it manageable. So I could be, and I hope I'm wrong on that. But I hope I'm wrong on the behalf of everyone that collects pops, which is not me. I'm just going to spend my money on comics. Don't distract me. Disney, the Disney company, and Warner Brothers will decide that comic books as a publishing business is not worth doing. Now, besides box office, these companies, especially Disney and Warner Brothers, make a huge amount of money on licensed goods properties, which means that when Round 2 does a Star Trek ship, it's not CBS Paramount that's paying to have that put out. It's Round 2 is paying to put that out, and we're taking part of the money we're getting from that and we're paying it to CBS. And that's how essentially everything but comic books, everything you see out there, that's how it's done. Mattel, if you see a superhero Barbie, a DC Barbie, or it's Mattel is licensing that from Marvel or DC.
It goes for pro and college teams too, right?
Yeah.
You have to pay the league licensing fee.
Right.
You get access to all the logos and stuff.
Yep. So if New Era makes a hat with a logo on it, they're paying that school or the NFL or whoever to make the hat. So if Disney and or Warner Brothers decide that comic books is not a big enough business that they want to stay in, they will shut that down, and you'll see Superman comics published by Dark Horse, just like Dark Horse does other licensed books. You could see if Warner Brothers decides they don't want to publish and Marvel does, you could see Superman come from Marvel Comics. And you can see this already. It is happening already in smaller amounts, where I believe it's IDW is licensing Marvel characters to do younger age comics. I believe that's the case. I could be wrong, but it's an arrangement somewhat like that. The details might be wrong, but that's happening. And I was thinking, I've seen evidence of that in the DC relaunches. When DC relaunched and did the New 52, and then 5 years later did Rebirth, and now they're getting ready to do 5G. They are doing those stunts to heighten the sales on their books, which that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. But I think New 52, if you go back and look, and if you kind of paid attention, it seemed like a big sloppy mess where one book wasn't paying attention to another one. Storylines were happening in one, and another story would contradict it, and the editors weren't getting along with the creators. You got a lot of turnover in talent and in titles. And I think that was just a hurried mess where Warner Brothers came to the Disney or the DC offices and said, I think we're getting ready to shut you down. We're going to just license the books to someone else. And DC was like, hold on. We can turn this around in 6 months. And Warner Brothers was like, okay, I'll give you 6 months. So DC did the New 52. Sales shot through the roof. They were able to sustain it for a little while, started falling off. And then Warner Brothers came back and said, what happened to all this New 52 money that we were getting before? It's not coming in now. And DC's like, oh, we can fix it. And then we would get Rebirth. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing with DC. With Marvel has always been the company that will do their best to squeeze everyone off the shelf. And that's why Marvel always does tons of X-Men books. Drew Manchu last night said they're going to do 42 X-Men books next month. I'm like, that's Marvel for you, trying to squeeze a little man or DC off the shelf.
So that's why whenever I look and see what's coming out, there's like 5 different Spider-Mans out there.
Exactly.
And 5 different, just like, who keeps track of all this?
Yeah. And so that if you go with X-Men, the quality level is actually somewhat high and consistent. I'm not sure what it's like with Spider-Man, but there are books in their line where you just look at them and you're like, why are they even putting this out? And it's because they're trying to squeeze someone else off the shelf. And it goes back all the way back to the golden age where Martin Goodman, his attitude was, I don't have to be first to the market with something. I just need to be first to the market with more of something so I can squeeze my competitors off the shelf.
So basically your fear is that Disney or whoever just says, you know what, let's just shut it all down. We don't have to pay the writers or anything like that. We'll just make money just selling temporary rights to this stuff so somebody else can do the comics.
Yep, that's exactly it. So
it's not a bad business model, but it depends on how much money they're making from the comics.
Okay, so that's the other thing that kind of flipped my script on this. Disney total revenue last year was, I want to say the number was $67.5 billion.
Was that just Disney or plus ABC and ESPN?
That was the Disney company.
Oh.
That was everything.
Oh, all three of them then?
Yeah.
And everything else?
Everything that Disney owns.
And that's with Fox.
Total revenue was 68.5, something like that, 67.5 billion.
And that's what's been all the money they used to buy Fox too. Yeah. That's amazing.
That's revenue. That's money coming in for the year. So the comic book industry last year made $1 billion, and Marvel is consistently covering right around 50% of that. So Marvel Comics generated $500 million. So on one hand, you could say, is Disney going to miss that? They've got 67. Are they going to miss that 0.5 billion?
Miss the 500 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. Let me put it this way. In the long run, I hope I'm wrong. But right now, I hope people stop buying the books I want, so the price will come down. All right.
What about the TV shows? Is that going to have any effect on it?
I mean, any limited level of interest is going to help. But I heard one of the things that Big Will was mentioning on his show when they're talking about prices, why doesn't Marvel advertise their comics in their movies or TV shows? And if you look at it, it's Marvel wants the other way around. They want their comics to advertise their movies and TV shows.
Isn't that the only reason S.H.I.E.L.D. stays on the air?
Could be. Let's see. NASCAR fans enjoy the Iron Man movies. Robert Downey Jr., a great character actor in real life, but comes through in his character. Yeah, I agree. Iron Man set the stage with Robert Downey Jr. Japanese like some sci-fi, Chinese like fantasy. Could be the case. Yeah, the Chinese are a little bit more spiritual, so that might be why they're more fantasy oriented than sci-fi.
Oh.
Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot. I enjoyed the Wonder Woman movie. I saw it once. I don't feel I need to go back and watch it. There are certain parts of it I would like to go and watch again. A couple of action sequences, but I wasn't impressed by the CG villain in it. I mean, you really have to respect a villain, and I didn't respect the villain. I think that's maybe why I didn't like it as much.
What's taking them so long with the Flash movie?
Hey, Bake. It's taking so long with the Flash movie?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've had all these other movies out like 8 years ago. I mean,
Disney is really wishy-washy about everything they're doing.
Oh, that wouldn't be Disney, would it?
I think the DC app is moving to Warner as well. It seems like some of the content is moving, but I'm not sure that I would bet they'll shut down that app eventually. All right, so that's it. So I'm gonna get more lighthearted with my next thing next time around. So this is a preview of what's coming up next time on J Hood Creative Saturday Morning Live. We are going to go over the bottom 10 spec list. Everybody's all about looking at what are the hot books. Do I have them? Should I get them? I'm going to go over the 10 that are so under the radar that they're at the bottom of the spec list. I mean,
this is my price range.
Books you don't even know you want. That's what we're going to talk about. Let's see what else we got coming up. We have an issue at hand coming up on February 17th, where we will have Bonafide Comics on, who is usually a chat member, but has not done any content of his own. But we're going to be covering Nightwing 25. I reread this just the other day. It's a great example of kind of the Batman family of books, circa the late 90s. And then what else have I got going? I mentioned earlier I might be doing some IG sales, so keep an eye on that. If you're on IG, make sure you watch for me.
J Hood Creative.
J Hood Creative, yep, on Instagram. I've got a freelance project I'm trying to get wrapped up as soon as possible, but I do owe some people some books. I moved the boxes from the sales where I offered sketches and sketch covers, and I'm picking up the sketch covers today. Sorry it's taking so long, but one of the sketches I owe is the Big Lion Cat, and this is the start of the sketch card for him. He wanted Lion-O.
From Thundercats?
From Thundercats, yep. He's the Big Lion Cat.
Makes sense.
So
I was a Detroit fan.
Yep. All right. So you got anything left to say, Coach Vic?
No, it's been fun. It's been real. It's
Sure.
been real fun.
I hope so. All right. So we'll wrap it up and let everyone go. And we'll remind you, faith, family, comic books. And we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.